The tale of a middle-aged woman traveling on a dime. By the time most people reach the age of 50, they are pretty well established. Most are living in their own homes, whether owned or rented. They have a little or large nest egg that is growing as they work towards retirement. Some people share all of this with a partner or children, often living close to their families, whether in the same city or country, and have created a stable world for themselves. I, however, have none of these things. Instead, I have been visa hopping since 2019, traveling on a dime and seeing the world. As an online English as a second language teacher, all I need to be able to work is my laptop, an internet connection, and a quiet environment. So how did I get here? I was born and raised in South Africa, where I lived very contentedly for almost 30 years. Shortly before my 30th birthday, I started to feel a lot of uncertainty about a future in a country going through a lot of economic, judicial, and cultural difficulties. After months of contemplation, I decided to move to New Zealand. The move to the land of the long white cloud was successful, but after 4 years in New Zealand, I decided to head to the warmer shores of Perth in Western Australia. Over the next 10 years, I built a good life for myself and my cat, Jamie. During this time, I worked in many different industries and went to university for the first time at the age of 37, subsequently earning 2 degrees in psychology from the University of Western Australia. After a decade in the sunburned country, I felt the need for a change, and so in late 2017, I left my rented 3-bedroom house in the northern suburbs of Perth with my 16-year-old traveling companion, my kitty Jamie, and we headed for the United States in the hopes of moving there. I sold half of my belongings and put the other half into storage, planning to send for everything once I had found a job and an apartment. Having already successfully immigrated to New Zealand and Australia, there was no reason for me to doubt that I would be successful in getting a work visa and residency in the US. I had underestimated the attitudes and laws towards immigrants in America at the time, and therefore chose the worst possible moment to move there. After 18 months of trying to stay, I finally had no choice but to leave. As I didn't want to go too far from Texas, which is where I was living and also where I intended to return, I flew to Costa Rica and got my first job as an English teacher in San Jose, which is the capital and most populated city in the country. I spent 7 months there before I left. Although Costa Rica is incredibly beautiful, I was very unhappy being away from the only place that felt like home. I quit my job and flew up to London, Ontario, Canada, where I rented a basement apartment through Airbnb. I needed time to think about what I was going to do with my future and how I was going to get back home to Texas. I didn't have permission to work in Canada, so I turned to online teaching to make money to pay my rent. As my 6-month visa stay was about to run out, the COVID pandemic started, which enabled me to extend my time in the Great White North until the end of the year. No questions asked. I spent the time focused on writing my first book and hanging out with some friends, albeit socially distanced. It was during this time that I fell in love with the country and realized that this is where I wanted to settle. As my visa extension came to an end, rather than renewing it, I took the opportunity to visit my parents in South Africa. My beautiful kitty Jamie had died earlier in the year at almost 19, and so for the first time in almost 20 years, I had no one relying on me and no commitments. What was meant to be a 3-month trip to Cape Town turned into 7, as Canada's borders remained firmly closed. Vaccines were being rolled out in South Africa, but the government was moving slowly, and I was desperate to return home to Canada and the life I had begun to create there. I booked a one-way flight to Cancun, Mexico, whose borders had never closed, and managed to get vaccinated there before returning to Canada 2 weeks after my second vaccination. This was October 2021, and since then, I have continued to travel in and out of Canada, in accordance with visa restrictions. In the last few years, I spent 3 months in Turkey, a month in the Netherlands, 5 weeks in Germany, an additional 3 months in Mexico, and 2 months in Brazil. Through teaching online, I have learned a lot about the lifestyles, customs, and traditions of the many different cultures I teach. Through my travels, I have actually been able to experience some of these cultural aspects. For example, I have spent an evening listening to the sounds of rapid Turkish at an iftar dinner, the meal that breaks the daily fast of the Islamic month of Ramadan, and felt the bond shared by the diners as they slowly filled their empty bellies. I have been taken into a Brazilian family on Christmas, smiling at the laughter and joy that surrounded me without understanding a word. I have been fed a traditional Turkish breakfast, a vegetarian version of feijoada, the traditional dish of Brazil, and eaten opasta, a staple of Bavarian cuisine in Germany. I have drunk beer on the Alsancak Çimla in Izmir, Turkey, located on the banks of the Aegean Sea, before heading to a local restaurant to eat meze and drink raka. I have had a caipirinha made especially for me in São Paulo, Brazil, been given a shot of top-shelf schnapps in Regensburg, Germany, and drunk the best margarita I have ever tasted in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I have traveled this amazing and vibrant world and met the most incredible souls along the way. Whilst traveling on a dime requires a little creative planning, it has enabled me to spend a lot of time with local people who have been only too happy to tell me about things that are not in the guidebooks, the quiet little secrets of the area, or the best places for certain types of food. I now also have a basic understanding of 6 languages apart from my own. There are pros and cons to this lifestyle of mine, and it's definitely not for everyone. I have also been alone in a foreign country and sick with COVID, with only a basic understanding of the language. The thought of going to a Mexican hospital using broken Spanish did not appeal to me. So I took painkillers, drank plenty of water, and rested when I could to get through it. I lost my laptop cable on one of my most recent flights, panicking when I noticed it missing, as my laptop is my source of income, and without it, I would be in serious trouble. I have had to haul my luggage on and off more trains, planes, and buses than I care to mention, even when running on very little sleep and completely exhausted. Despite it all, I would never give up on my adventures as a middle-aged woman gone mad.